All right, guys, our next guest, I'm joined by St. George Illawarra Dragons forward Josh Kerr. Josh, how are you this evening?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, very good, mate. Now, look, this was your second hit out for the year. Obviously, your first was with the Indigenous NRL AllStars, but this is your first in the Red V. So just wanted to ask you, how special was that, and how's the body after the second hit out?
Yeah, mate. It's very special. Been here for, this is my third year here. Had a tough few pre-seasons, and just to chuck that Red V jersey on, even though it is a trial, it is very special because a lot of good people have worn that jersey before me. And, yeah, mate, it's just a very special feeling. And, mate, the body's it's a bit sore today. The ribs are a bit sore, but, mate, that's footy. First hit of the year too.
Yeah, no doubt. I guess you just did touch on it was only a trial, but what was something you took out of that game personally for yourself? What was an area you were very happy with yourself, or perhaps an area you felt you needed to improve?
Oh, mate, I think my running game's really improved. I've worked a lot in the pre-season with it. I've done a lot of extras, and I'm never going to be really, not now at least an 80-minute player, but I just want to make sure with the minutes I get out there, I'm running as hard as I can and trying to obviously develop my defence a lot more throughout the year. But yeah, mate, I think my running game, I'm just making sure I'm running as hard as I can and trying to find my front. And I think, the only thing I really need to improve upon is my match fitness. Obviously nerves get the better of me sometimes and whatnot, but mate, yeah, just need to work on that match fitness. And when I am tired, mentally handling it a lot better. Need to make sure, I'm not slouched over, I'm not running heavy-footed or anything, but those things come in time, mate, so I'm looking forward to it.
No doubt, those are sort of things that come with experience. And you touched on extras there this preseason. Have they been individual efforts, or is it something you collectively with the rest of the forward pack have been working on?
There's a bit of a mix. I know for me, my biggest focus during the preseason was making sure that I get my timing when I'm running and making sure I'm running as hard as I can, and even at times it's a bit of footwork. I've done a bit of that, but also James Graham usually grabs a few of the lads and does a few extras, and I've jumped in for a session with him, and mate, it's not easy. He's nuts, the old fella, but mate, yeah. And whenever the boys, we all want to do some forward stuff in terms of our defence or our different plays that we've got. I'm always willing to jump in and help out and whatnot. But yeah, it's all the boys are usually at the end of a session, which is always good to see, pretty much the entire team out there doing their own individual extras and group extras.
No doubt. Sounds like it's been a very tough preseason. What was sort of the message that the boys delivered in the sheds after the game? The leaders, perhaps Mary McGregor. What was some of the positives you guys took out of that trial game?
Oh, mate, I think, a lot of boys, especially a lot of us younger boys, we really put a lot of pressure on ourselves, because we want to impress, as best we can.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the boys talked about it after that. Everyone was just happy, and we did sort of, the older guys just sort of, let the boys know, yeah, it is only a trial game, and the boys did really well, but it's still a long season ahead, and these are only trials, but everyone was really happy. The coaches were really happy with, especially the depth of the boys. And, I could see Jay Field, Matt Duffy, and all those boys, and especially Darren Nichols, they handled themselves really, really, really well, I thought, in that in our second 40. So it's just good to see that the depth of our squad's really good. And, yeah, that's just come off the back of a few good pre-seasons with the boys.
No doubt there's a lot of depth and competition for spots currently at the Dragons. When we talked on improving your game earlier, you touched on your running game. Has that been your preseason focus, or has there been other areas also?
Yeah, I'd say my running has probably taken about 60 to 70% of my focus.
Okay.
First graders, Mary's told me before that it's a lot about defence as well. Obviously defence is probably the main key point in cementing a spot, in a first grade squad, and especially as a middle, we need to hold that line. So I have worked a lot. I think this is probably the best year for me in terms of how I'm feeling about, how I'm going about my defence and everything. I think I took a lot of confidence away from that AllStars game too, knowing that I sort of held my own against some of the best in the world. I'm certainly not the best I'll ever be at the moment, but it's a really good stepping forward point for me.
You touched on the All-Stars game. Just quickly, I mean, how much did that mean for you and your family?
No, mate, it's the proudest moment of my life. I know we lined up to do the anthem, and I looked straight ahead and I saw, my mum and dad, and my mum was in tears, and dad was just had the biggest smile on his face, and my sister and a few other family members were there, and they were in tears as well. So, mate, I don't know, mate. It's always just been a dream for me, and to be actually able to do it was just something so special. I couldn't believe it. I was on cloud nine for about a week and a half after I'd been told, but mate, I was very lucky that I was given that opportunity, and I took it with both hands, I thought.
Yeah, certainly, no doubt. I mean, it's something that not a lot of us will get to experience, and it certainly sounds like it was an amazing experience. Let's touch on the All-Stars game. You crashed over for a try, and then you repeated that effort in the trial game, crossing for another try in the Red V. Is this something we can come to expect out of you, Josh?
Oh, mate, I hope so. I'm just in the right place at the right time, I guess. I think it's, I always put it down to the other boys that are passing me the footy, people like Reece Robson from hooker, or Darren Nichols or Jay Field from the halves, because they're the ones that are looking up and seeing what the right option is to hit. But mate, all I'm focusing on is making sure I'm running as hard as I can, especially close to the try line, because mate, as soon as I crashed over, I think I needed a bit of a breather at that point in time as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And we've spoken on your preseason focus. It's predominantly been based around your running game. But let's look at the broader spectrum. What about as a club? What has the preseason focus been from the St. George Illawarra Dragons?
Oh, mate, I think our biggest fault has probably been consistency. But, mate, everyone in the team, especially especially the older boys, they all know what they need to do. I think a lot of us are focused more on, when we come together as a team, we're really good. And I think it's just, I know for me personally, it's probably my own individual sort of areas that let me down. And it's probably some of the team down at some points in time too, whether it's trying to play the ball a bit too quickly and losing control of it or whatnot. So I think, when we do our extras and whatnot, when we focus on that sort of stuff, we sort of focus on what we need to do individually to get better, because we know that'll help the team. It hasn't really been a big talk about what we need to do to improve, because we've got a really good star-studded team, and it's just about putting it together throughout the whole year. We always do really well. We just fall off, like every other team does. They always have their mislap games or whatever. You're never going to have the perfect run in a season, but making sure we're doing as best we can, and making sure we're doing all those little individual extras, and we got the team to do it, mate. We'll see how we go round one.
Yeah, absolutely. And for yourself, obviously the Dragons boast a very experienced forward pack. Which player or players have helped you improve your game most this off-season?
Definitely Tarek Sims. He's been there since, this is my third year at the club, and he's been there since my first day with me, helping me get through everything, because, mate, he takes all the young fellas under his wing, especially all the forwards, because he's been there, he's done that with all the middle stuff. He knows how tough it can be, especially as a young player coming through with a good forward pack ahead of him. My biggest enemy, I'd say, is probably myself, because I've always lacked confidence at times. But, mate, this year I've felt a lot different. I just feel a lot more ready. I do feel a lot more confident. He's always helped me. He's always been in my corner. But there's the other likes of Jordan Pereira and Mitch Allgood, who are my two closest mates in the team. They've always helped me out, especially after training and away from training with everything, like extras or whatever. So, mate, it's as much as it is them, it's the culture that the club's, created, especially Mary and all the other coaches. They really talk about being together and whatnot. And, it is such a good culture, and the boys just do help out so much, and I'm very grateful for them. So hopefully if I do crack it this year, mate, I'd have to take my hat off to them, because I wouldn't be here without them.
Certainly a very good crop of players to learn off there. Last question before we let you go for tonight, Josh. What is your individual 2019 goal, or some goals you have for this year? This time next year, when you look back on 2019, what is something you want to be proud of to say, I achieved that goal?
Oh, mate, definitely the debut. That would, not just the debut, but I'd love to have at least, you got to start off the bench and hopefully move into the starting team, and that'd probably take a few years, but my goal is to crack NRL, mate, and hopefully hold a spot there. And, mate, that's the dream. That's why we're all here. We're not here to play, New South Wales Cup, but mate, you got to learn your trade somewhere, and hopefully, if I'm very lucky enough to get that opportunity to play NRL, then I'll definitely take it with both hands. But that's all I'm focusing on at the moment, is hopefully getting the crack next week down in Mudgee, or up at Mudgee, and mate, hopefully put my best foot forward for Mary.
No doubt, Josh. I don't think you're very far off at all, mate. You were on the cusp of making that NRL debut. You looked great in the trial game and even better in the NRL All-Stars game. Thank you very much for coming on this evening.
Cheers, mate. It's been great speaking to you.
Cheers.